Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast brought to you by our friends over at Walk-Ons. There is no better happy hour in the world than the food and drinks that are provided over at Walk-Ons. They have happy hour pretty much every single day during the week. The Tuesday is the big day to do it with the $5 Tito's and the all-day happy hour, but can't go wrong on Wednesday and Thursday as well with 3 to 6 and 9 till close. Awesome food, fantastic drinks as well. So there are 3 in the Tampa Bay area, one over in Lakeland, another in Wesley Chapel, and a third in Midtown Tampa, not far from Raymond James Stadium. So eat like a winner and drink like a champ over at Walk-Ons. It is day 2 of the Senior Bowl. We are talking about it on the Pewter Report podcast this evening. Appreciate everybody rocking and rolling with us in prime time. We know it's a later start time than usual, but that's what happens when the Senior Bowl is going on. A lot to talk about with the edge rushers and the inside linebacker of our dreams. We're going to talk about it on today's show. I'm your host, Matt Madera. Joined with me is Scott Reynolds, the face and runs the place at PewterReport.com. Scott, day 2 in the Bucs. What are your thoughts?
They just got to call this the Jacob Rodriguez Bowl. I mean, really, that's what it was today. I mean, J-Rod, who, if you've been following us on the Pewter Report X accounts, I'm the guy that has the crush on J-Rod. I think probably all of us by now have
we're starting a cult.
Yeah,
and it's about Jacob Rodriguez.
It is, yes. And if I'm being honest, I think I've moved past crush into love affair.
Yeah.
This guy is just phenomenal. No Senior Bowl pictures of him yet because our photo service is a little slow on the
That's
trigger.
All we can say.
But I'm just telling you, this guy was just everywhere in practice today. Had an even better day today than he did yesterday. Yesterday was really, really good. He just stands out like a sore thumb. He's easily the best linebacker here. He's the best defensive player here. He might be the best player overall here. Is he a first-round pick? No, because there's some measurable things, some other stupid things like that that's going to get in the way. This guy is a football player, and he excels at one thing, getting the ball out. And that's exactly what he did today for his practice, the national team in the morning. He had a forced fumble, surprise, surprise, and then guess what? Shocker, ends the practice with an interception. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal stuff. This is what this guy does, makes plays, creates takeaways, leadership off the charts, diagnoses things, doesn't get blocked, makes tackles, drops in coverage. Just an absolutely sensational day for Jacob Rodriguez. Oh, look at that stash and that cowboy hat. My God.
The hat is almost just as impressive as the stash, but the stash is more of his doing. But to your point, Scott, like yesterday, he was good.
Yes.
And there were some highlights. You could see it on social media. You could see it on Pewter Report's Instagram, stuff like that. He was good. Today, he was sensational. And it was an exclamation point at the end of practice, making the interception, kind of jumping forward, making the play. Something that we didn't see too much from Bucs inside linebackers this season.
That's right.
But the forced fumble, I think that's really what set the wheels in motion for the national team's defense, that practice. It was really towards the beginning of when they started the bulk of 11 on 11s.
They dominated.
Annihilated the offense. It was not close. Like a 10-yard pass over the middle was like the biggest play by the offense on the national team. But Jacob Rodriguez throwing that punch into the football. He was doing it yesterday. Today it connected. It was recovered by the defense, provided a huge spark, and then the momentum just continued to roll throughout the entire practice. And another thing, too, before we start talking about other Texas Tech players, the way that Jacob Rodriguez in these one-on-one matchups where it's linebacker covering a running back, the way that he's able to reroute the running back in a matchup that is advantageous for the running back. There's no other players on the field. It's mano-a-mano, 1v1. Jacob Rodriguez is still finding a way to manhandle the competition in those specific matchups.
So if you're about my age and you remember Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies, there's a scene in one of those movies, I forget if it's the original or the sequel to it, where Indiana Jones, played by Harrison Ford, he's running through this market, and he's trying to chase somebody. All of a sudden, there's this guy with a sword, and he starts doing all the sword stuff, and he's doing all this. And Indiana Jones waits about 10 seconds and pulls out his gun and just shoots him, right? And then just runs on. And it's like, there was a running back, and I forgot who it was, and this is kind of this play you're talking about, where in this one-on-one drill, it's like he takes off the line of scrimmage and just jukes left and then wants to come right, and J-Rod's just like, and just shoves him. Just literally just, he's going on the sideways business, and J-Rod just says, I got 5 yards, buddy. Yeah. I'm just going to take you out. And just absolutely shoved him and knocked him to the ground. And it's just the physicality, the football IQ, the intangibles, they're just off the charts. And this is a guy that, I mean, in the second round, he should be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. But you're right, Matt. This defensive performance today, it just snowballed. He started making some plays. Other people were getting sacks. It was so exciting that, and I've watched a lot of Texas Tech football, and you have Lee Hunter in the middle. You got Romello Height on one side, David Bailey on the other, J-Rod behind them. It was an all-star Texas Tech defense. And that's really what the national defense looked like today. Mm-hmm. It looked like that dominant Texas Tech defense, just with players from different schools kind of joining in on the fun, because Romello Height had a day, a bounce-back day from yesterday. We saw Lee Hunter have some more good plays in the interior. J-Rod made his plays, but it just was a snowball, and it was so much fun watching that. It was an ensemble, a cast of characters just putting on a show, and we were kind of talking, if there were 10 plays, the national defense won 9 of them. That's how dominant it was.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy to see that, because when we've been to a fair amount of Senior Bowls at this point. You kind of see some ebb and flow to it. The defense will kind of dominate one session, and the offense will get it together and start doing their thing, and then the offense starts running the ball really well. That wasn't really the case. There were a couple of nice moments from the running backs, the Penn State running backs, where they're able to break some. But yeah, for the majority, it really was the defense. And yes, it was a lot of Jacob Rodriguez, but then the edge rushers really started flexing their muscles as well, because you see one guy get a sack, Romello Height get a sack, and then all of a sudden it's like, I want to do that too. I want to get in on the sack party as well. Like Anthony Vincent from Duke had a sack as well. I thought Utah edge rusher Logan Fano did a pretty good job, mostly on the right side, but certainly trying to get into the backfield, making some plays. I thought he looked pretty good with the one-on-one pass rushes as well. So that national team really brought it on the defensive side. It was pretty impressive to see.
And we saw from the American side in the afternoon a much more lively, much more energetic group.
Yes.
I thought the coaches brought the energy. It carried over. The players had more energy. It was a sharp and stark contrast between the national team and the American team yesterday. One had a bunch of caffeine. The other one had a bunch of lavender tea, getting ready to go to bed. This was much more of a balanced day, where the national team picked up where they left off, and the American team kind of woke up and joined the party. Mm-hmm. And Derek Moore had another great day today. What I loved about this is there was some chippy play, and Derek Moore got in this offensive tackle space. You've probably seen some of the highlights on X. And he got really chippy and feisty, and some pushing and shoving. They even kind of slapped helmets a little bit. But I've really been impressed with Derek Moore. He's a player that maybe I slept on a little bit. I got to go back and watch some more film. He's not going to get any bigger. He's not a big edge rusher at all, but big enough at 6'3", 250 pounds in that realm. That's kind of David Bailey's size. Mm-hmm. So why not? I mean, I think they already have their power guy in Tampa Bay and Yaya Diaby. So why not get another player that is a little bit of an opposite? Like you had that big kind of freakish athlete in Jason Pierre-Paul. Yeah. And you had kind of a smaller, quick twitch, undersized guy in Shaq Barrett on the other side. And it presents different matchups for offensive tackles. And we saw Todd Bowles kind of flip-flop those edge rushers from time to time and look and create different matchups. Mostly Shaq on the left side, mostly JPP on the right side. But you have the ability to kind of flip those guys a little bit. And I just was really impressed with what I saw from Derek Moore here. It's going to cause me to go back and watch a little bit more film on him. And maybe I've slept on him a little too much.
Yeah, I thought it was a good day for the Michigan guys overall. A defensive tackle, Rayshon Benny, was getting into the backfield, making some plays, and I think stood out among the defensive tackles. And yeah, we spent a lot of attention thus far, really since the season has ended for the Bucs.
Yeah,
talking about edge rusher and inside linebacker, rightfully so. But defensive tackle is going to be right in the mix for Tampa Bay as well. Is it necessarily going to be the first guy that Tampa Bay takes off the board? I don't necessarily think so at defensive tackle. Probably best player available, though, so you never know what happens if the Bucs pick a 15 or if they decide to trade up, trade back, or whatever the case may be. But defensive tackle is going to be just as important for the Bucs this season in terms of adding new players, whether it's free agency or likely through the draft. So, finding these guys now at the Senior Bowl, we've already highlighted like how much the Bucs have invested into the Senior Bowl with guys like Cody Mauch and Yaya Diaby. And who knows? Maybe Benny, maybe Banks, people like that could end up in Red and Pewter this year.
Yeah. One of the players we had in our mock draft was Nadam Tucker. That's him at Houston.
Yeah.
Number 45. Remember him playing against my Kansas State Wildcats to a degree back when I watched the tape. But he went from there, from being seldom used at Houston to going to Western Michigan, where he was a 1-year, one-hit wonder. 14.5 sacks, a couple forced fumbles. We had him in our mock draft on day 3. And kind of like a David Walker type, although this guy's a little bit thinner, a little bit more fluid, a little bit more high energy. I had a chance to talk to him today for the first time. I love his energy. He has got the huge chip on his shoulder, really gritty, edgy player, and the type of guy that is going to bring a lot of energy. He runs his mouth. I like the kind of the nasty demeanor he plays with. If you're looking for kind of a dog at edge rusher, this is the guy here that's really stood out to me. Had a chance to talk to TJ Parker today. I like TJ. He's a physical guy. But from a mentality standpoint, he's probably a little bit more like Yaya Diaby than he is, Jason Pierre-Paul. This guy, he's got a little bit of edge to him, a little bit of that dog that you're looking for. And we might be onto something with him because I think he's a really good player. He's met with the Buccaneers. Just kind of a self-made guy. And he was a fill-in. He was a guy that wasn't supposed to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
But when Akeem Messidor and Ruben Bain and David Bailey, when they opt out, it opens the door for guys like Nadam Tucker. Was very impressed with him on the field today. Again, he got another sack or two. And just that interview, which we'll have later, was phenomenal.
It was. I really enjoyed that interview. You could tell he's a little bit more of an eccentric guy, but that's kind of what we've talked about with – I'm not saying he has a screw loose, but you want edge rushers that kind of play with the screw loose or, going kind of crazy. And he absolutely plays like a guy who has his hair on fire.
He does.
And I think that's exactly the type of player that Tampa Bay needs. And to hear him, again, not like bash Houston by any means. He's just like, I appreciate them, but it wasn't the right fit for me. And he kind of had to get back to the drawing board and then still found a way to figure it out. I thought that was really awesome. And then Parker, another really solid day, another nice sack. He's quick off the ball. He certainly has the Yaya Diaby kind of nature to him, but he's also quite quick off the ball enough where he just blew past the tackle and was able to make a play and get a sack. I think he's probably been the best all-around edge rusher so far because he put 2 good days together where, Hite kind of struggled yesterday and picked it up today. But
and I would say out of all of the defensive players here, probably the guy that really has a chance to go in the first round. You might see Lee Hunter sneak into the first round. I think a lot of people we've talked to here have him in the second round. And kind of same thing with Caleb Banks. I know he's listed as a first rounder on PFF. I think even Trevor Sickerman, we talked to him, he's like, probably going to come down a little bit in the the final rankings or the updated rankings with PFF. This is not a great defensive tackle class, but still, you don't want to sit there and spend a first-round pick on a guy that just simply isn't first-round talent. And as much as we like Hunter, and I think Banks is okay, I don't think either one of those players are true first-rounders unless you have a need there and you want to trade back up into the first round and get one of those guys at 28, 29, 30, or 31, something like that. You can kind of see that. But there is some edge rush talent here. And it's fun to see these guys kind of feed off each other. As we saw Zion Young really pop today and flash. This is I hope that these guys stay for the game. I hope that a lot of these players end up staying for Saturday's game, because this could be a sack fest. The quarterbacks here aren't very good. The offensive line really they're not great offensive linemen.
A couple moments.
But yeah, there's a couple good tackles, but this is not like where you've got top 5 picks at offensive tackle or a top 10 guard here. So this really could be a bit of a sack fest on Saturday. That might be fun for you defensive aficionados.
Yeah, I know the Senior Bowl, the game itself, they have some rules where like you can't do certain blitzes and you can't do certain stunts, and probably for the betterment because the interior offensive line is, we've seen some pancakes by the defense. So usually when you say pancake in football, you're talking about the offensive side, but we've seen some steamrolling by the defensive side in those one-on-ones with, interior offensive linemen and defensive tackles. It's been the D tackles that have been steamrolling the interior offensive line. So need to kind of preserve that, keep the quarterbacks upright for the game.
You talked about offensive line. We had a chance to talk to Jennings Dunker today.
Awesome.
The red-headed, mulleted offensive tackle,
2-time hay bale tosser of the year.
Yeah, at Iowa, Tristan Wirfs' alma mater. Tristan Wirfs also won the hay bale championship when he was at Iowa. Really cool, fun guy. Looks the part like a Jason Light offensive lineman. He's got red hair like Ryan Jensen, and he's got the mullet like we saw. Alex Capo had the long hair. Cody Malk had the long hair as well. He's an Iowa offensive lineman. He kind of checks a lot of boxes, I think, for Jason Light. Don't think he's going to be a Buccaneer because that would be a second-round pick. He's going to go in the second round. Yeah. But maybe if they want to have a guard, in play, maybe you draft them. But the interesting thing about that was I asked him, he didn't play, obviously, with Tristan Wirfs because Tristan's been in Tampa for 5 years. But does he have any relationship with Tristan? Because Tristan will go back home. He'll go back to Iowa, lift weights there and do those types of things. He said, yeah, as a matter of fact, when Jennings Dunker went to an Iowa camp back when he was a sophomore in high school, Tristan was actually working the camp for the Hawkeyes. And he said, Tristan Wirfs actually taught me how to pass protect back when I was a 220-pound sophomore in high school. So that's pretty kind of a cool connection, right? And I texted that to Tristan today, and he's like, man, like Jennings is a different breed. So that was a pretty cool little nugget there that I don't think anybody knew. But Tristan Wirfs worked that Iowa Hawkeyes camp that Jennings Dunker attended when he was a sophomore in high school. He got a little one-on-one teaching from a guy that would become an All-American and then ultimately a first-round draft pick by the Buccaneers.
There is the Iowa pipeline as well. That's right. The Bucs and the University of Iowa. Famously Tristan Wirfs, but Anthony Nelson as well, Kayvon Merriweather, a couple of different people. And just watching Dunker today, it was earlier in practice. It was some double team drills, 2 O-linemen and 1 defensive tackle. But still, the violent nature of which he plays. I mean, he's so nice and easygoing off of it, but on the field, like he will just bludgeon you consistently until the whistle is blown. And then even give you a little extra shove. Once that whistle is done as well. Super fun to watch, super aggressive and physical. It's the exact player that everybody would want on their team.
A couple super chats we'll get to here. Ask Your Computer Guy became a YouTube channel member. Thank you so much. That's
Appreciate
awesome.
that. Thank you.
Very cool. Remember, if you want to become a Pewter Report TV channel member, hit the join button. It'll have a list of all the different options, and you just pick the one that suits your needs and your budget the best, and greatly appreciate all of the new channel members that we get here. Thank you, Pewter Report. This is the highlight of my day this time of year. Very cool.
No Buck 89.
That's awesome. We have a super chat here from Kings Are Awful.
Thank you, Kings Are Awful. Our resident negative Nancy says,
but we love you.
Yes, we do love you. Has Light learned to stop drafting choir boys?
I think there's been some adjustments. Like there's some people in the building that are wanting the Buccaneers to expand their horizons a little bit, not that they're going to take a chance on like bad character guys, but maybe widen that I am that man net a little bit further, and get some players that have a little bit more edge to them.
It's going to go from I am that man to they are those men. Yes, not just one person. We'll cast the net a little bit wider.
Exactly. A comment here from Dashmo 9809. Is there a Walk-Ons Mobile? Yes, there is. There is a Walk-Ons here in Mobile. We've driven past it. We're probably going downtown to eat tonight. Some of the haunts, the establishments we like to frequent here in Mobile. We did Walk-Ons a lot back in Tampa, so we'll probably venture out into some of the sole proprietorships downtown tonight for dinner. The Delaney, the $4.99 super chat.
Thank you. Says, could the Bucs trade back to the end of the first round to get Jacob Rodriguez, accumulate more picks? Something that we've thought about, Scott.
Now you're speaking my language here. So I may or may not have a Pewter Pulse where I propose that later this week. That might be coming to a Pewter Report TV YouTube channel near you. So make sure you check out that Pewter Pulse. Probably get that done on Friday. So that'll be something for you guys to chew on over the weekend. But love me some J-Rod, and I think everybody here, I'm a Big 12 guy, so I've just watched a lot of Texas Tech this year, but it's hard not to be a fan of this guy, especially when you see him up close and personal, and we've done some scouting prior to that. And when you see what's on tape and then you see it live, that's what this is all about. It's the on-field plays that are made here when they justify and back up what you see on tape. That's cool because it checks some boxes. And it's also fun too to kind of come here and say, like me, like maybe I slept on Derek Moore a little bit. I got to go back and watch some more tape because I've really been impressed with what I've seen live. And there's some guys the other way that you see on tape you're anxious to see and they disappoint a little bit. So it kind of works both ways when it comes to the Senior Bowl. And that's what's great about us coming here live and seeing these guys. You see a guy like Diego Pavia, who's 5'9", and you're like, wow, man, you were a giant on the field.
Walked right by Josh Capo today, and he didn't sing about it.
Looked like a high schooler with a backpack on, I mean, just for real, And I love Diego Pavia. I love the way he plays, but man, he's small. I mean, that's just it. So really cool stuff. We're going to mix it up here a little bit and get some other Pewter reporters on here. But I just wanted to mention one thing. This will be our last podcast of the week as we're going to be driving back tomorrow evening from Mobile after the practices back to Tampa. But if you are a Pewter Premier or Platinum member, you're going to get our Pewter Insider access to our Pewter Insider show that Matt Matera and I will be doing on Friday at 1:30, the day before the Senior Bowl game. We've got some exclusive Senior Bowl Bucs scoop we've been hanging on to for our Pewter Insiders. So, there's Jacob Rodriguez. Of course, there's J-Rod. We love J-Rod. But we're going to be talking more about some kind of more Bucs-related things that we've kind of been hanging on to. So make sure you are a Pewter Insider, and that means a Pewter Premier or Platinum member. If you are those members, you get that membership perk, and you get access to our Friday afternoon podcasts. And that's going to be Friday at 1:30. So make sure you check that out. Also, make sure if you need legal representation, you are getting it from the fine folks over at Jorgensen Law.
Welcome to Jorgensen Law PA, where our family's legacy drives us to fight for your rights. Specializing in personal injury, workers' compensation, and Social Security, we're committed to winning for you. No fees unless we succeed. Trust in our family to help yours. Let's achieve justice together.
Jorgensen Law PA, the champions of the injured and disabled, with an office over in St. Petersburg. Huge Tampa Bay fans, huge fans of Pewter Report. So if you're looking for legal representation in the areas of personal injury, workers' comp, or Social Security, they're the folks to call. 727-347-7733. Get a free case evaluation. No fees until they win. Got to love the confidence. Visit them on the web at jorgensenlawoffice.com.
We got Josh Capo on the show right now. Very excited to talk to Josh, but we were just mentioning a moment ago about the Pewter Insider, Pewter Platinum, and Premier members. Now's probably a great time to give a thank you to all of our Pewter Platinum members. Appreciate all of your support, and our Premier members as well. So thank you so much to each and every one of you for your support of PewterReport.com and PewterReportTV. I will let that scroll across the bottom. Josh, what's up, my man? You've been checking out the linebackers.
Yeah, and defense overall. To be completely honest with our viewers, we were joking earlier today. I think I found out my first offensive player's name today because I've been so locked in on the defense. And yes, linebacker is obviously one area that I've been really interested in. A lot of my scouting reports so far this draft season have been at that position. It was where I was kind of really locked in on day one. So I'm a part of the Jacob Rodriguez love fest. So in addition to the interception that I know Scott talked about, he also had a forced fumble today. He just has a nose for the ball. He's always around the ball, and definitely was the captain of that defense today. Everybody was gravitating towards him. The communication skills were really great. Got to talk to him a little bit today and asked him about, like, it's really interesting to be a linebacker at an all-star event because you're the captain of the defense. You're communicating behind you, you're communicating in front of you, and you're doing it largely with a group of guys that you met 48 hours ago.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, how are you able to do that in such a short amount of time and be able to get everybody kind of in position, both pre-snap and post-snap? And very cerebral answer from him. And I love that he said, you've got to care about the guy. So the very first thing that I'm trying to do when I got here was just create a relationship with the dudes around me, because I'm going to be on this field. I'm going to be working with them. There are going to be times where I have to tell them what to do. There are going to be times where I have to say, hey, that wasn't quite right. There are going to be times where I have to praise them. And none of that means anything if there isn't some relationship built to start with. So we're all here for a common reason. We all want to get into the league. We all want to be successful. So using that as kind of the basis, creating that relationship, and then from there, just over communicating, making sure we're all getting into the playbook. We all understand the defensive communication calls. And then from there, working from that. And it's been working because that national defense has been just absolutely everywhere. So it's really great to see him. I definitely think that national linebacking crew has been a step above the American one. Kyle Lewis had another solid day, but another linebacker, this one from the American side, who I think had a much more positive day too, was Xavier Soray, from a linebacker out of Arkansas.
Yes.
I think he played really strong in the box. He was constantly getting into the backfield, really, really good working downhill. And so he was one who stood out for me in the afternoon practices.
It's so funny because yesterday I was watching a lot of Kalen Black, the Indiana running back, and they, for whatever reason, kept repping against each other. And again, like, this is only one part of all of the practice. If you screw up in one area, it doesn't mean that, your draft stock is completely done. But when it came to the one-on-one, which again is more advantageous towards the running back than it is the linebacker, Kalen Black just kind of smoked Soray every single time, like almost every single time. But then today, and again, this was in the 11-on-11 this time around, he was making some hits, especially, at the line of scrimmage, certain run plays, the crowd, because the afternoon practice, like, there's media there, but there's more like residents of Mobile that come because, like, you get off of work. I want to go watch football. And there were people in the crowd being like, ooh, and like hooting and hollering and stuff. And Soray was a lot of the times in the middle of it. So I think that's a great example of, like, one practice isn't necessarily all or nothing, because I felt he kind of struggled yesterday, but certainly picked it up today. And then someone with a wise man like yourself pointing that out, it reaffirms that at least I know a little bit of something.
I appreciate that. Since you were talking about oohs and ahs, the biggest ooh of the day, or the biggest ah of the day, was actually during that was the afternoon. I'm trying to remember if it was the national practice. It was Notre Dame wide receiver Malachi Fields. So this kid, 6'4", 218 pounds, just very imposing at his position. He gets downfield on a post, and I can't remember who the quarterback was for it, but just absolutely uncorks a bomb. And he goes up, and the ball was just a little bit too far ahead of him. Didn't matter. With his wingspan, he just launches himself into the air, pulls that thing down, full outstretched reach, and had everybody just losing it. So that was such a great play. And then what I really liked was, at the end of practice, he gets a one-on-one opportunity, working the sideline. And that's normally where these guys will just kind of unleash their speed and win downfield, especially with his size. And what did he decide to do? No, I'm going to show my ability at this size to really break down a route and come back, and ran a comeback at about 14 yards and left the corner in the dust, and makes this nice catch, but shows a bit of an expanded route tree. This is what I'm going to be asked to do at the NFL level. Let me show a little bit more than what people would expect. So that I thought was a really, really cool rep from the day. And yes, my first offensive player that I remembered their name.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very true. I mean, we haven't been watching a ton of wide receivers because it doesn't feel as if that's going to be a huge need. But let's just say, like, hypothetically, Mike Evans decides to retire or like doesn't end up in Tampa Bay. How much does wide receiver then kind of come up on the Bucs radar?
I think a lot of that depends on the Bucs' new offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson.
Yeah,
right?
Z-Rob.
So Mike plays this role as the X receiver that really none of the other receivers in the room profile as at their best, right? So like Chris Godwin's an F. He's more of a slot guy. Emeka can move between F and Z. They used him as an X last year, but I think that we saw the limitations of him in that role. And then Jalen, again, more of like a Z in my opinion. So you don't really have an X. So if Zach wants to create more traditional roles, they would need somebody who's like that. And that's typically your outside ball winner, somebody a lot like a Malachi Fields from Notre Dame, right? 6'4", 218. That really, he profiles well in that role. But you are seeing, and ironically enough, you look at the Rams offense, right? With, yes, Devontae Adams has been an X traditionally in his career, but you go back a year and the Rams were running this offense with Puka and with Cooper Kupp, didn't have a traditional X.
Yeah.
So, Robinson coming from that world, maybe he creates an offense that doesn't need an X receiver. So I think a lot of that comes down to how is he going to look at this roster and envision his offense melding with it? Does he need a traditional X if Mike isn't there? If he doesn't, then maybe it's still low on the priority scale, especially when he was calling out guys further down on the depth chart during his press conference, and specifically
Tez Johnson,
right?
I love that.
If he sees this expanded role for Tez Johnson, okay, then maybe that means that an X isn't that important, not very high on the draft board. But if Mike goes and he goes, no, an X really kind of makes this go, then maybe that elevates a little bit more, either through free agency or through the draft.
And let's not hope that we get to that reality this year where Mike Evans isn't. But, we got to look at every single angle of this. Getting back to the linebacker position.
Yep.
If Jacob Rodriguez was the best linebacker thus far, and especially today, the second best inside linebacker has been
Kyle Lewis.
Kyle Lewis. I was hoping you'd say him.
Yes.
Because there's a picture of him.
Yeah. And this is one, I'll be honest, I've been rooting for. Kyle Lewis was one of the first linebackers I took a look at.
Yeah, you did a great write-up about him.
Well, what's really funny is the first time I looked at Kyle Lewis was around preseason NFL. Like, I was looking at his 2024 tape. He just popped up as one of the most productive linebackers in college football from 2024. So I looked a little bit at his 2024 tape back in the preseason. Then we get into Bucs season, and I can't do much with college football.
Yeah.
So when we come back here to draft season, okay, I get to go back to Kyle Lewis and go back to his tape and the things that I really liked from last year. You see a lot of it this year. There are still some concerns, and what I really like about Kyle Lewis is he leans into the concerns. He's like, guys, I hear everybody all the time about guys talking about my size and they think I should be a safety. I'm a linebacker. I'm going to show them what I can. And for him, it's all about his speed. What I thought was really interesting, Matt, is, we get the updates throughout the day of these guys all have chips in their pads. So they measure.
Right, how fast.
Yep. And specifically for the linebackers, he's not really showing up as one of the fastest linebackers when it comes to like top end speed. Although I've seen through tape study, verified he's been over 20 miles an hour. He just hasn't hit it here in Mobile. But when you watch him play, him getting into the backfield, and that's how he has to win at his size, is he's just got to beat guys 2 spots. And he's been able to do that through 2 days while showing off the coverage skills that really are his calling card. So I think he's done a really great job of solidifying what everybody believes are his best traits. And he's also shown that he's able to play with all of these guys in this all-star game and still win in the run game, just using his burst, his short area quickness, that explosiveness there.
Yeah, I thought he did a solid job today in some of the pass coverage sections going up against running backs. So then let me ask you this, because you did a very thorough, detailed write-up about him. You can see it on PewterReport.com if you haven't checked it out yet. Granted, it's 2 practices, and there's still the combine and more tape to be watched and everything like that. Looking at these 2 practices, do you feel after watching them live better fit for the Bucs than you originally thought, or the same, or maybe even less?
He's gone up my draft board, and this year, one of the things I've changed about my draft board is I'm trying to create more of a Bucs-centric that draft board. So after day 1 and nothing here, day 2 has changed the bump that I'm going to give him. And I think what it really comes down to is I knew the zone coverage stuff was pretty good.
Yeah.
I was watching him in those one-on-ones with the running backs. And what's really funny is he's coming from Pitt. There's obviously the Servassier-Dennis connection there.
Which Bucs fans don't want to hear.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, like, where Servassier really struggled last year, like some of his lowest moments were one-on-one with a back in space. And where Kyle Lewis has won the best over these 2 days is one-on-one with a back in space. And so that's the skill set that the Bucs linebacking group didn't really have last year, that athleticism in space to limit yards after catch on underneath throws. He's got that. So there are still some things where I'm like, because he's smaller, he's got, shorter arms, the tackling radius, right? That's going to be a little bit smaller. So can he make those tackles off of his frame if a guy does try and create a juke move on him after he catches it? Those are still a little bit of a question mark, but I think the overall movement skills and the way he can get to the flat and break down, all of that is a plus. And he's gone up my draft board a little bit. I think he's very role specific. It would be as the Will or as Scott, the Mo backer, right? He's not going to be somebody you want to put in the middle of the defense and ask him to be a thumper downhill, but he can be that sideline to sideline Will backer.
Got a comment from Eric Cullison who says, you guys might have already talked about them, but how have the running backs looked? Everyone assumes Algier is coming here. I paid a solid deal of attention to the running back, especially if we're talking about the offensive side of the ball for the Senior Bowl and needs for the Bucs. Obviously, we've had the great K-Dot discussion, but again, if he doesn't come back to Tampa Bay, the tight end is certainly an area of need for the Bucs. And I think running back is the other in terms of Rachaad White is out of town. He's been very upfront about that. He went on Instagram Live today as well, and I was like, oh, what is he going to say this time? But I think it's pretty short-lived. We were at practice, so I wasn't really looking at it. Sean Tucker's also a restricted free agent. It's not guaranteed that he is back. So then it's just pretty much Bucky Irving that is on the roster for the time being. So, running back does become more of a position that the Bucs have to pay a little bit more attention to. And I talked about Kalen Black before. I think he's at a little bit of an advantage right now because he just played in the national championship and certainly is in rhythm and is in football shape and everything like that, where a lot of the other guys sometimes, aren't because they haven't played in about a month. The other running back that's really stood out to me, and I spoke to him yesterday, was Katrin Allen, the Penn State running back. So he's had a good burst getting to the second and the third level. He actually went to high school at the IMG Academy in Bradenton, so somewhat familiar with the Tampa Bay area, spent a couple of years down there. He's training in Miami, so he's getting ready for the NFL draft by working out in the great state of Florida. So he's another guy that kind of stood out to me. The Oklahoma running back today had a pretty nice run. His name is escaping my mind.
Jaden Ott.
Yeah, Jaden Ott, to get back to K-Don. Jaden Ott, I thought had a nice run today. But I wouldn't say anyone's been like a stellar type of all-star like we've seen at maybe some other events.
Yep. Two that kind of one, I got to talk to him off the field when they were doing media availability, and I thought it was a really cool interaction. Was give me 1 second, it'll come to me. Clemson running back Adam Randall.
Oh yeah.
So he interesting.
One of the fastest guys.
Yeah, an interesting story because he's a converted wide receiver, and so a lot of the conversation with the media, they were talking about his conversion there. And the different things that were required for him to do that. And what I really liked is when Clemson asked him to make that switch, a lot of guys in that situation in this current day and age of college football would say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and transfer. But he was very upfront. He said, I don't quit. Like, I don't quit something that I put put myself to. I had to have a lot of trust in the coaching staff, but also just faith in myself. And I committed fully to it. And then I got to ask him, I said, well, can you walk me through the difference? Wide receiver, you're not a part of the pass protection plan, but as a running back, you are. Can you talk a little bit about that? And that kind of goes to the Bucs are losing one of the best pass protecting backs in the NFL in Rachaad White. So that's kind of where my mind went with it. He gave such a really great answer, very honest. He goes, that was one of the biggest things because early in the season, when I first made the transfer into as a running back, he's like, I gave up a sack on a corner blitz.
Yeah.
He's like, and then he said, so it really taught me that one of the most important things at this new position is my eye discipline and being able to go through my keys pre-snap and know where could guys be coming from? Where do I need to look first, second, third? I've got to protect this quarterback. And I thought it was really a really honest and nuanced answer from him. So I appreciated that just from getting to talk to him off the field. And then on the field, Arkansas running back Mike Washington.
Yeah.
I thought really great mover, especially at 228 pounds, could get vertical. I thought he had a couple of really good plays as well throughout the day. So those would be two that kind of popped up on my radar.
Josh, anything else that you noticed, whether it's offense or defense, just like maybe one other thing that kind of stuck out to you today?
I thought the edge rushers, I got a little bit more of an opportunity to watch them. So four that kind of stood out to me: Romello, height. He had a sack, really showed the burst off the line. But one of the things that he wasn't really known for is speed and power, and you got to see that in some of his one-on-ones. And then in the 11-on-11s, he had an inside arm over that I thought was really, really cool. Zion Young bowled over an offensive tackle in one-on-ones. That's always fun to watch in those. Derek Moore, I thought, had a really, really solid day, really 2 days. He's upped his stock. And then you and Scott talked about it a little bit earlier, but Ndame Tucker, he showed a ghost move on one of the reps that I thought was really, really awesome to win the corner and flipped his hips. And he's got the juice. And he is somebody that I think has really raised his stock, and people are going to be talking about him. We had him in our first mock draft. So
yes,
really, really excited that we were able to kind of ID him early, and I'm excited to get to watch him a lot more.
Josh, appreciate all your insight. And yes, check out the mock draft from Pewter Report, the first one. We're going to have a couple more before the draft comes out. But yeah, please, everyone, check it out if you haven't done so just yet. By the way, also got to talk about Briar Greaves Insurance. Big sponsors of the podcast. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether that's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than Briar Greaves Insurance. We've seen lately how the weather can really impact your everyday life, whether you're trying to travel, whether it affects your home or your boat if you're living in Florida, or anything like that. So it's important to be prepared and make sure you have the right insurance. And that's what Briar Greaves Insurance does. They make sure that you have the best insurance plan possible. So for more information about them, visit their website, briargreavesinsurance.com, or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And as we continue our Senior Bowl coverage, we're going to have a chat with Adam Slavon and Bailey Aks.
Bailey's joining me here in just a second, and we're going to be going over some of our Senior Bowl standouts on day 2. Bailey, I led off yesterday. I'm going to let you take the honors. Who stood out to you today?
Yeah, so unfortunately for the third segment in a row, we're going to start with Jacob Rodriguez, just because I have to put that out into the universe as well. And I told Josh Capo earlier, this is my 4th year really covering the draft the way we do here at Pewter Report, and my 4th time at the Senior Bowl. And I've had little mini draft crushes maybe in the past 4 years, as you do. And you get to the point where maybe the guy doesn't end up with the team that you cover, the team that you watch on a regular basis. And, you get a little sad about that. Unfortunately, I think with Jacob Rodriguez, we have hit a new level of draft crush for me. I think he's my first true draft love, or my first true crush in the draft, just because like it's been said before, he is all over the field. He is all around the football, takes the football away. The day he had today, forcing the fumble, we have that clip up there on Pewter Report's Twitter account, and I believe We also have it on Instagram. That was a great play where, again, he just shows his nose for the football. He gets in there and he sheds a block, and it's not just shedding the block and getting to the ball carrier. It's shedding the block, getting to the ball. And he knocks the ball loose, and I believe it was the Tennessee corner, Colton Hood, who was there to recover it. Later, he has the pick. And another thing I had said to Josh, because Josh, I was watching some of Jacob Rodriguez's tape earlier, and something Josh said was, he's just always around the ball. And at one point, I was doing something. I think I was getting one of the posts up or something, and I looked up, and I see the ball rolling after an incomplete pass. I don't know if it was a fumble or what it was.
A fumble, yeah.
I see the ball rolling toward the other far sideline, and there's Jacob Rodriguez running after it. I was like, oh, of course he is. The ball's over there. He's going to be over there. So, yeah, I think that's just, as everyone has kind of already mentioned, the dream pickup for the Bucs in this probably in the second round.
Yeah, that's well said. And really, what more can you say? Jacob Rodriguez is a certified baller. And it reminds me a couple of years ago, the Iowa linebacker, Jack Campbell. Like, nobody really thought, he was going to be a first rounder. All of a sudden, the Lions take him because they identified him as the right player to transform the defense. We kind of had that discussion yesterday about the defense really finding an identity and how much of that starts with the linebacker. There's nobody better right now than Jacob Rodriguez at the position. And you can really make an argument that not only has he worked his way into the second round conversation, maybe the first pick of the second round, but you can make a strong case that if the Bucs determine he's the right fit, maybe they trade down a little bit from 15 and they nab this guy.
I keep having to remind myself, too, just because we're so dialed in and focused on the Senior Bowl, is I got to keep reminding myself that there are other players, and Sonny Styles still exists. So
this is true.
He would be the guy that if he's there at 15, I'd jump immediately and jump for joy. But, yeah, if we're talking about, okay, maybe Sonny Styles not being there, or maybe they go a different direction, they address the pass rush. And if they can do that and then grab Jacob Rodriguez in the second round, that is a dream start to this draft. So, yeah, this is a guy that's been a lot of fun to watch, but a lot of fun standouts on day two. And we talked a little bit yesterday, toward the end of the show, about how maybe guy didn't have the best of day ones or off to a slow start, and that I was sure some guys would emerge on day two that we would talk about. And sure enough, there were quite a few, and that some of them have been mentioned already. I kind of want to start in a different position. I'm not talking too much about because it's not the biggest area of need for the Bucs, but I thought Bud Clark, the safety from TCU, had a really good day. Really energetic guy. He's another guy that kind of seemed like he was all over the place in coverage, and I mean that in a good way, not like, oh, he's all over the place, but he was tight in coverage. He was making plays on the football. He was loud. I liked the aggression from him. Just after he'd make a play or after a teammate would make a play, he was one guy that definitely really stood out to me on day two. And a guy that I have not looked into at all, that I now probably want to give some more attention to watching the tape.
And I really loved, and I love if the Bucs drafted a player here at the Senior Bowl on the defensive side of the football, because on the national team and the American team, there was just so much energy. You could feel it from the coaches. The players were playing off of it. And you mentioned a guy who might not have had the best day one, but bounced back on day two. I look at a guy like Romello hype and all the hype on him about being a first-round pick. I saw him yesterday, and I was kind of like, he's all right. But then today you saw more of that athleticism, that speed, even using some power in creating. He got a sack, and he also showcased like some coverage ability. And I think he's that kind of sneaky Todd Bowles-esque edge rusher, because you know how he likes to drop his edge rushers into coverage.
I do. Yes.
But I think there's more potential, and maybe he was the guy at Texas Tech where everybody else is eating, like Jacob Rodriguez, David Bailey, that he might get overlooked a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And it was good to see him look more like the guy that we've heard about, right? And we've read about and seen, over the course of his time with Texas Tech. So good to see him kind of rebound and have a good day too. And another one, and again, we've mentioned him, and obviously he was in Pewter Report's first initial mock draft in the second round, but another Texas Tech guy to stay on brand or on theme here, Lee Hunter. I thought he was good on day one. I thought he was consistent on day two as well. I think he's had just a consistent couple of days here in Mobile, and a guy that, maybe as Scott mentioned earlier, not a guy that's necessarily going to do much and skyrocket into the first round, but he's going to probably be a early to mid second round guy that has helped himself, I think, this week with just a couple of practices he's had. Just another guy who is very vocal and very loud.
Yeah.
From drill to drill.
And you mentioned him as a defensive tackle that stood out. There's another guy that we haven't mentioned yet that I really liked, and it was Chris McClellan from Missouri. He was a Florida transfer. He went to Missouri last year. Another guy like Lee Hunter, really big. He's 6'4", 323 pounds, and he was a menace out there. He was bowling over. It didn't matter who was in his way, and just his size. And I think his ability to maybe be a backup to Vita Vea, maybe to start off in 2026, he could be an option, I think, in like the third, fourth round. He had 6 sacks at Missouri. Just the ability to, rush a passer, but also be that run stuffer. I think an underrated need for the team, obviously, is defensive tackle. There's some bigger ones like edge rusher, inside linebacker. Yeah. For sure, we're focused on them, but you have to look at the big guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've talked about it, at length, where Vita Vea is getting older and Kalijah Cansey, you can't really count on him to stay on the field. He has not been able to do that over the course of his career. And, they're going to pick up the option, but I don't know. We don't know beyond that, because I think a lot of it for a second contract I'm talking about is going to hinge on whether or not he can kind of shuck that label of being injury prone. And it's just, sometimes it's just a bad luck thing.
Yeah.
Like it was the calf, the first 2 years. And then this year he was finally healthy, had the calf issues behind him. Then he tears a pec in week 2. Like, how do you foresee something like that happening? But yeah, I mean, behind those two guys, you're probably seeing Logan Hall walk in free agency. And other than that, it's just, you've got depth pieces there. You got Vita, Cansey,
Elijah Roberts.
Elijah Roberts was promising as a rookie, but Greg Gaines has been just kind of a depth piece that you can definitely upgrade over, and you're starting to think you need depth right now, obviously, but you're starting to think a little bit toward the future with, hey, Vita's getting into his 30s. Yes. We're going to see on Kalijah. So yeah, it's not in the top tier of needs, but it's right underneath it, I think.
And I think it's one position that the Bucs hit on quite well, because we mentioned all those guys, and they were all draft picks by Jason Light. Vita Vea, one of his biggest hits, and Kalijah Cansey, when he's on the field, he looks pretty good. He's a really good pass rushing defensive tackle. And Elijah Roberts, for a 5th-round pick last year at SMU, had a really solid rookie season. So you look at that and you're hopeful that maybe Light can hit on another defensive tackle. And I know they kind of mentioned about Nadam Tucker before. He's someone else I want to talk about, because I thought he had a good day 1, but I thought he had an even better day 2. And he's somebody else who, if they don't look at Romello Height or TJ Parker, he's a really good fit on day 2. I think we had him in the mock draft. I want to say 5th round.
I think so, yeah.
He's going to be round 3, 4 after his Senior Bowl week.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, it's one of those things where if you're looking at it from a Bucs perspective, would love for him to stick around in the 5th round, because you could even think about okay, maybe you're going to double dip at the position, because I think for most Bucs fans, I would imagine if you get to late day 2 and you haven't addressed the pass rush position, like if you haven't addressed the pass rush in free agency and then you don't do it in round 1 or round 2, things are going to get a little scary.
You're going to be sounding the alarm in Tampa Bay.
I think so. So that's why I love the idea of, hey, 1st or 2nd round, you get you get a guy in the 1st round, like a lot of the guys we talked about, then or maybe 2nd round you get Gabe Aks if that's the route you want to go, and then in the 4th or the 5th you double dip and you just say, hey, we're going to get an infusion of young talent here at the outside linebacker position, because it's badly needed. Like they need more juice there. And that's something that I could see them doing. We talked yesterday about them double dipping at inside linebacker.
Yeah,
they could double dip at outside linebacker. Maybe they'll do both. I would like it if they double dip at both positions, because those are the 2 biggest needs. And you're throwing, and it's not the best analogy because they're obviously doing a lot of research and a lot of tape study, and you're meeting with these guys. But in some senses, it's throwing multiple darts at a dartboard, and if hopefully all of them hit. Yeah. But if 2 of the 4 hit or 3 of the 4 hit, you're in a pretty good spot.
And in previous years, like Jason likes to draft multiple cornerbacks, and you're going to have your hit, you're going to have your Carlton Davis, but you're also going to have your MJ Stewart. And you want to take as many chances as you can to make sure you get more Carlton Davises to that point.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Gabe Aks, and I want to talk about him. We mentioned him a little bit yesterday, but Josh Capo and I, we had the chance to interview him probably about 3-4 minutes towards the end of our little media session today. And I was really impressed by him. He was a team captain at Illinois last season. And to him, that meant everything, to be a team captain, to be a vocal leader on defense. And he really turned it on late in the year. And he mentioned that, man, like, it's late in the year, everybody's tired, but man, I'm turning it up out there. And he was proud to really stay consistent. He had 11 sacks last year. And he told us, we saw him in the hall just as we were about to leave. And he's like, man, the Bucs should come and get me. And we were all kind of like, man, that'd be something, because he's from Florida, Fort Pierce, which.
Port St. Lucie, yeah.
Oh, Port St. Lucie, sorry.
Yeah.
I think Khalil Mack is from the other one. Yeah. But anyway, kind of looking at him, he's a really strong player. And overall, I think there's a lot to like about his game. Maybe he's not a first round kind of player, but if he's there at number 46, I think he should be in strong consideration because he's young. He's only 21 years old, and he has the ability to develop into so much more. And we talk about like TJ Parker or Romello Height in the first round, but there's a very real chance they might not be there, especially Parker with the week he's had. But somebody like Aks, somebody moldable, I think is a good option.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and the name that was escaping me earlier was Cassius Howell, of course. That's another one that's been mocked to the Bucs a lot in the first round. But with Aks, I thought, he was good on day one. I thought he was, probably even better on day two in some respects. And, I know Scott yesterday talked about how he wasn't really happy with the way that Aks was attacking the bag during the bag drills. And I asked Scott during the drills today, I said, do you think he listened to the podcast? Because he's kind of attacking him a little bit more. And on that subject, I thought there were a few more guys, especially during that period, who did stand out to me as, maybe some guys that I want to look into. Just I don't know much about, straight up, I don't. But LT Overton, one of the edges from Alabama, he's wearing number 22 here. He was just going through, he was blowing through those drills. Quick guy. And he was working through those violently. And I'm interested to see a little bit more of him. And another guy, in the Iron Bowl rivalry, but Auburn's Kieran Crawford. He was also another guy I noticed in those drills, moving really well. And two more guys that I'd be curious to kind of dive into the tape a little bit more and see, what they're all about.
And this is considered to be a really good edge class, and everybody kind of looks at all the first round options. But to your point, and mentioning like Aks, Derek Moore, he had a really solid day. There's optimism that even if the Bucs maybe don't draft an edge rusher in the first round, I know everybody wants it, but in rounds 2, 3, I think there's still plenty of solid options. Dennis Sutton was someone I talked to after practice. Don't know if he's the best Bucs fit, but he comes from a long lineage of good Penn State edge rushers. Abdul Carter, Chop Robinson, Adisa Isaac. Like, there's a lot of success there for a reason, and I think he's somebody that maybe we haven't mentioned much yet, but maybe he can enter the Bucs draft board. Yeah,
it's possible. And, kind of to not necessarily close up completely, but just some more guys I want to talk about at maybe some it sounds weird to call them non-traditional positions, but we're focusing a lot on the guys up front on defense and the inside linebackers, but just some other standouts from maybe on the offensive side of the ball that I thought had especially a good day too. LSU wide receiver Barrion Brown, his just straight line speed blew me away.
He was trash talking Rashad Johnson.
He was, yeah. Bucs assistant secondary coach Rashad Johnson. They had a little back and forth going on that I thought was really entertaining. But I think it was even more so just watching them go through, because we always have kind of this running thing where the special teams periods are always so boring.
Yes,
they're necessary as Bucs fans have learned. Special teams is very important, but not a lot to watch there. But I did notice Barrion Brown catch a punt and just take off down the field at full speed. And his speed caught my eye. As far as the quarterbacks, which we don't have to talk too much about, but I think Luke Altmaier, the Illinois quarterback, has probably been maybe the most consistent and the best here in Mobile this week. Just there's zip on the football and he throws it. He seems like he knows where he's going. I think it was Scott mentioned he throws with some anticipation where he just kind of knows where the ball is going, which I think is great. Wide receiver from USC, Jacoby Lane, had a really good catch down the field.
Back-to-back reps.
Yeah, back-to-back reps. He is a tall guy, kind of like a slight, like really thin. He's got an interesting build. He's a bit lanky, but I think definitely some height to him, and he made a couple really good plays there. So yeah, I mean, just some positions that the Bucs probably aren't looking at, maybe even on day 2. But some guys that they might keep an eye on and take a flyer on day 3 if they've addressed the needs they want to.
And you also never know with the Bucs either, because last year none of us expected Emeka Egbuka or even Tej Johnson, like drafting 2 wide receivers. What? We got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin Jr., but you really never know. And there's 2 sides to the football, and we spend so much focus on defense. But you look at the offense, tight end, backup running back, maybe adding another interior offensive lineman. I mean, Jason Light loves them, and he'll see Jennings Dunker, and he'll be like, man, I got to draft him. I got to find somehow, some way. So
that's a good one, too. I did talk to, when we had our media session this morning, I talked to Georgia Tech guard Keelan Rutledge, and I just liked his demeanor. He just seemed like a no-nonsense type of guy. I think the words he used, he said something, he called himself, he said, I'm just a mauler. He said, I put dudes in the dirt. And he's like, that's what I've always done.
Love that.
And that's what I'm here to continue doing. And I was like, hell yeah, come on down to Tampa. So, yeah, I mean, some of those positions I think are definitely on the table, especially with how important, that backup guard or the interior depth is going to be.
We saw it last year.
Yeah, we saw it so much. It definitely impacted and threw off the Bucs offense this past year. You got to protect this guy, Baker Mayfield, long term. And I think there is the potential to go interior offensive line, maybe in the 3rd round, earlier than you might expect.
Yeah, especially because you saw what the offensive line looked like last year without Ben Bredeson, without Cody Mauch. And even though you're expecting them to be at full health, do you want Michael Jordan or Dan Feeney out there again? I don't think so.
I don't necessarily think so either. It certainly was a detriment to Tampa Bay in certain points, and that's why their stats went down offensively. But if you want your stats to go up and turn those stats into cash money, I'd recommend going over to Splash Sports and using their quick picks or joining one of their tournaments and prize pools, because they have it for more than just football. So you can join over 2.5 million people playing on Splash Sports. It's the home for Survivor, Pick'em, and Quick Picks. Whether you want to create your own contest with friends or take a shot at life-changing prize pools, Splash Sports has you covered. You can find the best multipliers and profit boosts in all of daily fantasy sports for the NHL, NBA, college football when it's in season. You can do it for the big game coming up next week. They have an awesome tournament for the Masters. If you're a golf fan, they got prize pools for that as well. You can turn $20 into $1,000 with the best multipliers in all of daily fantasy sports using the Splash Sports app. The QR code is on the screen. So I was thinking about this, Adam. We did see Jeff Castle, the assistant tight ends coach, working with the tight ends during the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Rashad Johnson as well with some of the cornerbacks and the defensive backs. He's the Bucs assistant defensive backs coach. And we saw that one up close and personal just based on where we were.
Exactly.
By the field. And it was cool seeing them coach everybody up. But there was a coach on the national team that we saw in the morning that was screaming in a positive way, hyping the defense up. And I think it helped them elevate their game when we saw all the Jacob Rodriguez stuff and the sacks and everything like that. There's still a couple of holes to fill on the coaching staff on the defensive side. We'll see what happens on the offensive side.
Yeah.
From what I saw from that coach earlier, they need a rah-rah guy to stir everything up in a positive way and just get the ball rolling for this team.
We got to find out his name, maybe if he has a business card or something, because I think he was an assistant with Dallas Cowboys, and just what he did in the drills, it really electrified the rest of the defense throughout the 11-on-11 periods. Like you saw him getting hype when they make a good play. And that's really what the defense needs, is they need an energizer. And we talked about this on a few Pewter Report podcasts. It's like Todd Bowles can't replace one 60-year-old for another 60-year-old.
Yeah.
You get a young guy that can relate to the players. And you even saw Rashad Johnson out there. He's 40 years old, not far removed from being a player himself. Yeah. And he's pulling players to the side. We mentioned he was like jarring a little bit with Barry and Brown, the LSU wide receiver. And you want that. You want, because at the end of the day, football, guys feed off of that energy. And you can't just, be standing there all stoic. And I mean, Todd Bowles has his reasons, but if he is stoic, he needs assistants that are hungry, that are eager to really seize the opportunity. And we're going to see how that unfolds really with the rest of the defensive coaching staff. Maybe Johnson's an option at the cornerbacks coach, but
Yeah, they're going to look at a couple of options. Maybe they go in-house, but Todd's been too calm.
Yeah.
And they need, if he's going to be calm, I mean, I don't really think that's changing in one season. At least he got everything that he said after the Falcons game more consistently, but I don't think so.
That's not him.
So you got to find that rah-rah guy. You need to find that next person that can kind of invigorate the group, energize the group if you need it, light a fire under them if they need to. So
one guy makes a good play, and then the other guy wants to make a good play because the coach is going to be so happy, so hyped.
That is what was missing, is like you need someone to start it, but you need someone to continue that momentum and keep it going in the right direction. And that just didn't really happen towards the end of last season. So that's why they're looking for some new coaches this season. Hopefully they find the right people for it. Just a reminder for everybody. First of all, thank you to everybody watching this show. We know it's a different time, so it's different for people's schedule. But it's been a lot of fun covering the Senior Bowl, the 2026 Senior Bowl. It's been several years for us going to the Senior Bowl. Scott's obviously gone the most, but you and Bailey have gone, I think, like 4 years now.
The continuity.
5 or 6. Josh has been to a couple now. So, yeah, it's been cool looking at things from a Bucs perspective, but in different avenues with the Senior Bowl. So this is our last episode for Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. There's going to be no podcast tomorrow. And then Scott and I will have a Pewter Insider coming up on Friday where we kind of recap the Senior Bowl, talk about some more exclusive Bucs scoop in regards to the Senior Bowl. So that'll be Friday at 1:30. No show Thursday, but we'll be back Friday at 1:30 for the Pewter Insider for Pewter Platinum and Premier members. So in the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please make sure you follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report. And our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video. What prospect from the Senior Bowl do you want to see the Bucs draft this year when the draft gets going? That's it for tonight's show. For Bailey Adams, for Josh Capo, for Adam Slavon, for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast.